Hello, race fans, and welcome back to the Pit Box. My name's Jesse, and Corey, do you know the difference between a politician and a race car driver?
Race car drivers wear their sponsors on their race suit, bud.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pit Box. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that we talked about in the first episode, the next gen parts shortage. Corey, Rodney Childers responding to a user's tweet, before we load for the Daytona 500 is when we're going to take it, like normal. It will be a little odd with only one car. So then another user asked him, one car because you can repair it so quickly? And Rodney Childers responded, only one because we can't get parts to build the backup car. Rodney Childers coming out there being brutally honest on the Twitterverse out there, Corey. What say
Yeah.
you?
I say uh-oh. For those that don't know, watching, Rodney Childers is the crew chief for Kevin Harvick, who races for Stewart Haas Racing. So he's a pretty well-known guy in the NASCAR world, and
Yes, he
that's
is.
a pretty transparent
I,
message he's sending out that, hey guys, look, it ain't all sunshine and rainbows getting this new car rolled out. So for me, I'm like, here's the button. I'm right there about to touch the
about
button
ready
on
to push
panic
it.
mode. Yeah,
Okay. Well, see, I'm a little further away. Yes, it's concerning that they've only got one car for speed weeks. That's the qualifying race as well as the 500 and all the practices and single car qualifying. So that's at least three different things: practice, qualifying race, 500. It's four different things that you're going to have to do with that one car, and if something goes wrong, you could find yourself in a hurry. I have heard since he tweeted this, Bob Pockrass asked him about it, and he said basically that they've got more cars than that. They just don't have the updates, or they're not really going to take it. But if they need it, then they might bring it from Charlotte down, or they might use a,
yeah.
a team's backup car. So it's kind of like NASCAR's kind of crossing their fingers right now, praying
It
that this is not a topic of conversation.
Well, it sounds like there for a minute you almost convinced yourself to be in panic mode when you were
Almost,
talking
yeah.
about.
As I
Yeah,
kept talking, I was getting closer. Yeah, you caught that. Okay.
yeah, you were talking yourself into it for a minute, and then you're like, "Well, but Bob Parker said this," trying to cover the tracks of what's happening. And I don't doubt they have more cars, but they also have to realize that Daytona is not the only race of the season, so they can't just be like, "Well, every part we get's got to go towards the Daytona car." They got to make cars and have cars ready for when they get away from super speedway racing. So when you look at it from that angle, I think it just plants panic mode just for Daytona right now. I think just going into that race, if you're a crew chief and you've got to practice, qualify, and race one car at a plate
Yeah.
track with a car that you've never raced before, that's
Besides the
that's
clash
that
that's happening
yeah
this week or last
yeah
weekend.
yeah that's panic mode. I mean, I don't know what else isn't like. It's like, hey guys, look, obviously panic mode in a professional sport isn't going to be like fires burning and all this craziness.
Yeah.
Panic mode is they're still going to be on top of their pit box. They're still going to be racing. They're not going to be freaking out on television. But back in the shop, it's going to be pretty hectic.
Yeah, the guys and gals at the shop that are putting these cars together and having to turn them around and fix them, they're really going to be the unsung heroes of especially the first part of the season. And you got to keep in mind NASCAR only one off weekend this entire season. So, and that's on Father's Day in June. So,
Woo, man.
you've got a long stretch once you start racing of we have to turn these cars around quickly. And if you wreck a few cars in this at the 500, you wreck one, and then maybe you wreck one on the West Coast swing. You're down 2 cars and you're already starting to get behind for the stretch. So, do you think it's going to be, real quick, I'm going to ask you, do you think it's going to be in the drivers' minds when they're racing to take care of this car in the 500, or do you
No.
think that's going to be put to the side?
In the 500, absolutely not. If you've managed to get to the 500 without damaging your car, or needing to get that magical backup car somehow brought down to Daytona, no, you're not going to give a rip. But practice, the duels, qualifying, I mean, you're absolutely going to be. They're not going to say it publicly, but I know there's going to be teams that are going to be like, look, practice, don't get too close. Get an idea of what the runs are going to be like, but
Sure.
don't push, don't push it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, once you make the 500, I mean, it's the 500. All bets are off. I mean, you're going to give it everything you got. There's no thought to it. I mean, you're going to go 190 miles an hour, and you could give the guy next to you a high five. So you're a little preoccupied.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't think the drivers are going to really think about it that much, although I do think some of them will. I think the cerebral drivers like Brad Keselowski, who's now a team owner of Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing in the 6 car, I think he'll be one to think about it. Maybe Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex, Kyle Busch. I see those guys that are older veterans more willing to take care of their stuff through the 500,
I
especially
don't.
until they get to the end. The
I don't.
last 50, 100 miles, then they'll start pushing a
No.
little more. But we'll
I
have to
think
wait and see.
I think before we end this little breaking news segment we wanted to give to you guys, I think that every driver, no matter what, is all in on the race. I think it's the crew chiefs and the crew chiefs boss, the owners,
Yeah,
which when Keselowski's in the car, I don't think he's thinking about that stuff. I
sure.
think it's those guys that coach those guys during the race to say, hey, I know you're going 200 miles an hour, but if you can, let's go to the back. We'll make our moves later. But as a driver, I don't think any of them are being considerate of their equipment as far as if there's a move to be made to get me the win, I'm going to take it.
What do you think of the car? Do you think they're going to be crashing it, or do you think they're going to be keeping it in mind? Hey, we've only got limited supplies. Is it a big deal? Is it no deal? You tell us. Thanks for joining us on the Pit Box. See you next time.
See you guys.